Late at night, my laughter during a video call with my boyfriend was so loud it triggered his motion-activated light, revealing my best friend hidden beside him. He said, "We've got a birthday gift for you." But then on my actual birthday they were kiss. On the first day of the start of the semester, I went downtown to buy my boyfriend some shoes. When I was heading back to the university it was getting late, and I was nervous walking alone at night, so I video called my boyfriend. When he picked up, it was pitch black on his end. I asked, "Why don't you turn on the light?" Ethan's voice was oddly hoarse. "No money, just saving some electricity." Honestly, besides being broke, Ethan was great in every other way. When I joined the university cheerleading squad, he even joined just to pursue me. He ignored our classmates' sneers and helped me master one difficult move after another. After the competition, he came to borrow sunscreen from me, and one thing led to another, and he confessed his feelings. My mom always told me that since our family was well off, I should look for a gentle and considerate boyfriend. Ethan was so good about that. He brought me breakfast every day. A few times, I secretly overheard his roommate saying Ethan was so broke from taking care of his girlfriend that he couldn't even afford food for himself. We'd been together for half a year without a single argument. So at the start of the semester, I secretly asked his roommate, planning to get him a pair of shoes. Thinking about surprising him soon, I couldn't help but quicken my pace. Suddenly, an unclear, muffled voice came from the video call. It sounded like a low whisper. "Baby, don't hang up, this feels good." Staring at the dark screen, I had no idea how he was feeling good. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Maybe my voice was too loud, because it triggered the night light behind Ethan. Suddenly, a face lit up, glowing green in the bottom left corner of the video call. It was my best friend Olivia. The two of them were tangled together, Olivia's hand resting on Ethan's leg. Our three sets of eyes met in silence. Olivia suddenly blurted out, "Chloe, happy birthday." I was holding a pair of shoes worth thousands in my left hand, and the bag I bought for Olivia in my right. I paused. "My birthday is tomorrow?" "Yeah, we wanted to quietly prepare your birthday gift, but we couldn't keep it a secret," she said. Ethan smiled gently. "Happy birthday, Chloe." On the other end, Olivia started rustling around, packing her things. "It's getting late. I have to go to my aunt's place today. Chloe, I won't be coming back, so remember to cover for me during dorm inspection." Before I could finish, the video call had already ended. I couldn't describe the taste in my mouth. Something just felt off. So I posted an anonymous forum post asking for help. Many people commented below. "OMG, she seriously thinks everyone likes her boyfriend, huh? Your best friend genuinely wanted to celebrate your birthday, and you put her on blast? How ridiculous." I scrolled through all the comments in one go. Maybe I really was overthinking it. The next morning, when I went to class, Ethan's roommate ran into me and ambiguously teased, "Ethan was really something last night, huh? Look at those dark circles, almost down to your cheeks." I froze. He wasn't in the dorm room last night. Ethan's roommates exchanged glances, suddenly fell silent, and scattered like startled birds. Today was an elective course, with classmates from several different sections mixed together. Ethan and Olivia should have been there, but neither of them showed up. Ethan skipping class was common, but Olivia was a straight-A student, so her being late was highly unusual. I was already ready to sign in for attendance for both of them, when I suddenly heard the professor was sick, and a new substitute professor was coming. Accompanied by rhythmic footsteps, a young man, over 6 feet tall, walked through the door. It was early autumn, and he wore a light, crisp camel-colored trench coat. His features were sharp, exuding a noble yet gentle aura. The moment I saw him, I froze. Everyone else had only seen him on the university's bulletin boards, but I had actually, genuinely pursued him. Julian, one of our university's outstanding graduates, who later went abroad. Oh God, if there was anything more awkward than running into my ex-boyfriend, it was encountering my unrequited crush, who had now become my professor. "Good morning, everyone. Professor Miller is ill, so I'll be substitute teaching for the next few weeks," Julian said. Julian had already begun his self-introduction at the podium, his voice as cool and detached as it had been years ago. Rumor had it that when he graduated, he'd received job offers from top firms but turned them all down. Our university somehow managed to invite this living legend to teach. I lowered my head and started messaging Olivia. "Get here fast, I can't handle this class." "Sorry, I overslept. Is the professor taking attendance really strictly?" Ethan and Olivia walked in almost simultaneously. At the podium, Julian paused in his speech and slowly said, "I hope that while classmates are dating, they don't neglect their studies." The classmates burst into laughter. Professor, you're mistaken. His girlfriend is right there. Following their pointers, Julian's gaze landed steadily on me. I hung my head in shame, wishing I could disappear into the floor. Julian watched me thoughtfully for a moment, then calmly withdrew his gaze. All right, let's take attendance. I let out a long breath and complained to Olivia. Where were you two? Don't even ask, she said. Ethan and I just ran into each other at the campus entrance, so I dragged him here quickly. Oh, despite it being Julian's first lecture, the attendance was incredibly high. The classroom was packed, with people even standing. As class was about to end, Olivia started packing her things. I hesitated, then asked her, Where are you going? I'm tired, she said. I want to go back and get some sleep. As she turned around, Ethan also waved at me, looking exhausted. Baby, I'm going back to sleep first. How strange. The two of them were surprisingly in sync today. I opened my mouth, unable to hide my disappointment. It was my birthday today, and it seemed like they had both forgotten. Losing my appetite for lunch, I sadly packed my textbooks. As I reached the door, Julian suddenly called out. Chloe, I believe you're the class representative, aren't you? Like an elementary school student caught with a bag, I straightened my back and slowly turned around. Yes, Professor, I said. Julian said in a businesslike tone. Add me to your contacts. I'll send you the course materials later. He couldn't have forgotten me, could he? I scratched my head. I think we already have each other's contact information. It had been so long, I felt a bit dazed. Julian, with one hand in his pocket, said helplessly, You blocked me. The memory suddenly hit me. Back then, when my confession of feelings failed, I couldn't handle the blow and apparently deleted him. I quickly bent down and apologized profusely. I'm so sorry, it was an accidental deletion. After some complicated steps, I finally re-added Julian's contact information, thinking, surely he'll let me go now. Julian spoke again. Professor Miller has some questionnaires still in the office. I need you to retrieve them and distribute them to the classmates. Come with me. Julian's office was located in Historic Hall. To get to his office from the new academic building, you had to pass through a glass walkway covered in green vines. The area was quite secluded. Few people passed through there except for a few older professors. The sunlight in the walkway made me feel dizzy. Inadvertently, I looked down and saw Ethan and Olivia embracing under the old oak tree on the first floor, kissing passionately. In the afternoon, the sunlight filtering through the glass walkway seemed to have lost its warmth, leaving only a cold, sharp outline that traced my shadow with stark clarity. I could barely hold back my tears. This was the birthday gift they prepared for me? Julian had stopped walking at some point. He came to stand beside me. After a brief silence, he said softly, Isn't that your boyfriend? Thank you for reminding me, I said. I didn't watch for long, because what followed was monotonously sickening. On the way to the office, tears started welling up in my eyes. Fortunately, Julian had his own private office. The moment the door closed, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. I embarrassingly asked, Julian, do you have any tissues? Julian handed me a box, and I pressed it to my eyes, sobbing uncontrollably. Ethan and I had been together for half a year, and he was the one who pursued me. Olivia was my best friend. We went to high school and university together. Now to be betrayed by both of them at the same time. The feeling was like being cut by a dull knife. After I'd cried my fill in Julian's office, I slowly emerged, holding the questionnaires. Just as I was about to leave, Julian took a bottle of chilled soda from the mini fridge nearby and tossed it to me. Put this on your eyes. That afternoon, I received a message from Ethan. Happy birthday, Chloe. I left your gift under the desk in the classroom. Remember to pick it up. Scrolling through our entire chat history, this was probably the longest message Ethan had sent me recently. What was this supposed to be? Guilt after doing something wrong? I had no desire to argue with him further. That afternoon, I simply retrieved the birthday gift. Inside the crudely packed gift box was a cheap, high-end counterfeit necklace. The authentic one would cost tens of thousands. It wasn't Ethan's first time doing something like this. The bracelet he gave me last time was also a fake. But I liked him, so even when my superficial friends mocked me for wearing cheap knockoffs, I didn't care at all. I never thought someone's feelings were cheap, unless those feelings were used to cover up ugly actions. Actually, on the way back, I'd thought that I absolutely had to tear Ethan and Olivia apart with my bare hands to feel satisfied. But I had no proof, and they would most likely turn the tables on me, accusing me of overthinking and being unreasonable with the face of victims. Instead of wasting more energy on them, it was better to stay far away from that pathetic pair. Because I didn't want to live with Olivia anymore, the next day I started to look for an apartment near the university. The agent said that the nearby apartment buildings were all newly constructed in recent years, with good environments. He had available listings, so everything was finalized quickly. When I went back to my dorm room to pack my bags, Olivia, who had been missing for several days, was sitting at my desk, unwrapped the bag I had bought. She was wearing my new clothes, standing in front of the mirror, admiring herself. "Chloe, thank you for the gift. Although I prefer white, this one isn't bad." A strong wave of nausea washed over me. Olivia's parents had always been very kind to me. There were times when I was sick and my parents were out of town and couldn't come back, and Olivia's mom would bring comfort food and take care of me. That's why I often gave Olivia gifts to show my gratitude. But this outfit wasn't a gift for her at all. I had intended to keep it for myself. She noticed my expression and asked, concerned, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" If I hadn't witnessed that scene, I probably wouldn't have suspected her and Ethan were together in 100 years. I stared at the smeared lipstick at the corner of her mouth, then suddenly stepped forward and grabbed her dress zipper. With a rip, the zipper came undone, revealing ambiguous hickeys on her side. "What are you doing?" Ignoring her panic, I pulled the dress off her with a cold expression and forceful movements, then snatched the bag from her hand. "Sorry, but these things weren't meant for you. Can't you just talk properly? If you're not giving them to me, fine. It's not like I'm asking for them." I took a breath, suppressing the anger in my heart, and pointed to her hair clip. "Fine, take that one off your head too." Olivia was incredulous, probably because I had never spoken to her in that tone before. "Chloe, when did you become so petty?" I smiled faintly, tossed the items into my suitcase, and slammed the lid shut. "Giving you my boyfriend to play with, is that petty enough for you?" Olivia's eyes flickered. Realizing she'd been exposed, after a brief moment of embarrassment and shame, she adopted a nothing-to-lose attitude. "What can I do if Ethan likes me? Stealing your boyfriend felt pretty good." "Have I ever wronged you?" Olivia reacted as if slapped, her voice rising. "What's wrong with you giving me some things?" I pointed to the expensive cosmetics on the table. "Aren't these enough? Your family is rich. Giving me these things casually, how is that any different from dismissing a beggar? I clearly study better than you, but the professors give all the opportunities to you. Why? Isn't it just because your family has some money?" All these years, I had seen Olivia as introverted and kind-hearted. I never expected her to be filled with such malice underneath. "Since you like dirty men, you can have him then." With that, I picked up my suitcase, ignored Olivia's livid face, and walked away. As I walked out of the campus entrance, I sent Ethan 3 words. "It's over." I also added, "Transfer all that money back to me. Don't make me sue you." That's right, over the past 6 months, I had spent a total of 50,000 yuan on Ethan, big and small. Because I knew he was poor, every time he gave me a high-end counterfeit, his roommate would casually let me know that Ethan had eaten instant noodles for half a month just to afford that gift. My heart would ache, and I'd transfer him money. Now that I thought about it, it was all just a trick to fool an idiot. I couldn't help but curse myself for being so love-struck. That evening, I moved into my new place. After unpacking, I ordered a bunch of takeout barbecue and beer, and started to drown my sorrows. After all, it would be a lie to say I wasn't upset at all, but it was more disgust, a kind of furious indignation, like a futile punch. I couldn't resist calling my childhood friend. The call lasted for hours, and I blacked out. On the other end, their voice started cutting in and out. "My phone is dying." Beep, beep, beep. The call suddenly disconnected. At the same time, my phone received a cold, emotionless text from Julian. "Homework due tomorrow morning." Only then did I remember that, because I was busy moving, I hadn't written a single word of my assignment. The greatest suffering one can endure is having to pull an all-nighter for homework right after a breakup. I called my childhood friend again and started rambling, cursing incoherently. "It just proves it," I slurred. "Good-looking men like Julian and Ethan are all bad news." I kept rambling for a long time, then noticed there was no sound from the other end. "Lily, say something." After a brief silence, Julian's helpless voice came through the phone. "Thank you for your assessment of me, but remember to hand in your homework on time tomorrow." I mumbled a weak reply. Less than 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I wobbled over and opened it. Julian, who was 6 feet 2 inches tall, stood in the shadows, towering over me. His gaze swept over the table, spotting the takeout. He frowned. You just open your door for anyone in the middle of the night? I clearly saw his gray-blue pajamas, and then noticed his door was open behind him. My drunkenness mostly cleared. Julian actually lived right across from me. I struggled to steady myself against the wall. "Hello, Professor Julian," I managed. I was halfway through my sentence when an angry voice interrupted me. "So you broke up with me because you found someone new, huh?" Ethan stood at the stairwell, his wet hair twisted into several strands, his eyes dark and dull. I choked, almost suffocating, unable to catch my breath. After calming down for a while, I spat out 3 words. "Dirty man." He looked utterly humiliated. "Who's dirty exactly?" He had the nerve to accuse me? My anger flared. "Of course you're dirty. You and Olivia are filthier than a dumpster." Ethan said righteously, his face cold. "Olivia and I are just friends." I laughed in anger, pointing at Julian and yelling. "People like him and I are just friends. You two are hookups." Ethan looked incredulous. "Don't you have any shame as a girl?" I opened my mouth but said nothing, then suddenly lowered my head and started fiddling with my phone. "What are you doing?" "I'm going to report you to the police." Ethan ran off. My phone screen was still on the dialing page. With red, swollen eyes, I pitifully asked, "Do you know how painful a breakup is?" Julian looked at me calmly. "Yes, I know." He eventually helped me into the bedroom. I don't even know how I fell asleep after that. Anyway, when I woke up in the morning, Julian was lying on his side on the sofa, eyes closed, visibly exhausted. I zoned out for a bit, then suddenly remembered what I'd done last night. I seemed to have dragged Julian into my crying for half the night, pouring out all the messy details of Ethan and me. Julian's eyelids twitched, then slowly opened. His gaze was still cool and detached. "Get ready. I'll drive you to the university later." The advantage of living across from Julian was that I could catch a ride with him. He had a Maybach. When we arrived at the university, I climbed out of the car under everyone's gaze, noticing many people pointing and whispering about me. I thought they were discussing the Maybach, but after breakfast, I found out Ethan had put me on blast. He had posted on the university forum, publicly accusing me of cheating. The gist of it was that I was a gold digger who had hooked up with a wealthy benefactor. The post included a photo of me getting out of the car. "So who owns the car?" One comment read, 8 out of 10, it's some super rich old guy. And now, the old guy from the post was unhurriedly lecturing at the podium. Today, the classroom was still full. I was squeezed into a corner at the very back, completely baffled as to why an unpopular elective course had suddenly become so crowded. Soon, someone on the forum posted a photo of Julian getting out of his car. Holy crap, no way. It's Professor Julian's car. I heard his family is already super wealthy, and he's just teaching here for a few months as a favor to a friend. No wonder Chloe cheated. I'd bury my boyfriend overnight for that. Hey, the person above needs to get their morals straight. After class, a university faculty member called Julian and me to the administration building. As we walked in, Dean Thompson was surprisingly also there. "Are you two dating?" I quickly blurted out, "No. What's going on with the post?" I felt incredibly guilty. "My ex-boyfriend spread rumors," I said. Dean Thompson earnestly lectured us. "You are currently in a teacher-student relationship, so you need to be mindful of your influence." Julian took over the conversation. "My apologies, it's my fault. I'll be more careful in the future." As I walked out of the office, Julian called out to me. Dappled light filtered onto Julian's trench coat. He was wearing his glasses, and the light refracting through the lenses somehow tinged his pupils with a gentle, lake-like shimmer. "I want to mail some photos to the professor. Once they're developed, could you please pick out 2 and mail them to this address?" He handed me a slip of paper. "There are only 5 actually. Just pick out 2 and send them off." Why doesn't he do it himself? I wondered. Confused, I contacted the person who would develop the photos. Once I got them, my attention was immediately drawn to one picture. In the bottom left corner of the photo, Olivia and Ethan made a friendly appearance, embracing intimately in the middle of a lawn. The photo was taken on Julian's first day of class. No wonder he mistakenly thought Olivia and Ethan were a couple. So him asking me to mail some photos was his way of helping me. I messaged Julian, "Professor, can I have one of the photos?" "Handle it as you wish," he replied. Less than a day after getting that photo, I exposed Ethan and Olivia completely. I publicly tagged him on the university forum, calling him a pot calling the kettle black. Below the post were not only pictures of him and Olivia entangled together, but also my transaction records to both Ethan and Olivia. The things I gave Ethan totaled $50,000, and most of what I gave Olivia were expensive gifts. The receipts were all thrown away, leaving only his chat history of soliciting gifts from me on my phone. The online onlookers overwhelmingly sided with me. How messed up is that? Did your best friend just use you as an ATM? Chloe, I'm so hungry. I promise I'll be good. Can you be my sugar mommy? And so, I barely made it through to the end of the semester. Dean Thompson implemented new university rules. Elective course grades would count towards our GPA. Failing a course would not only require us to retake it, but could also affect graduation. Classmates who were just coasting through became anxious, scrambling for exam tips before the tests. Julian's class was no exception. One day in class, during the Q&A session, a classmate bravely raised their hand. Professor Julian, are there any key points for the exam? All around, a group of classmates, their drowsiness chased away, curiously waited for Julian's answer. Julian slightly raised an eyebrow and smiled. No. A wave of disappointed sighs swept through the room. People started tagging me in the class group chat. Sarah, the professor's task is now yours. Key points? Well, if you put in the effort, you'll get results. That evening, I was holding my notes, preparing for cramming, when I unexpectedly received a call from an unknown number. Hello, are you Julian's girlfriend? I paused. No, I'm his neighbor, I said. He's drunk at the Lakeshore Building, Unit 43. Can you come pick him up? It was already early winter, and light snow was falling, probably the first snow of the year. Remembering the important task my classmates had given me, I took a deep breath and hailed a cab straight to the destination. Half an hour later, through the taxi window, I immediately recognized his figure. Handsome and tall, leaning against a wall, unmoving. The snow fell softly, muffling footsteps. I walked up to Julian, brushed the snowflakes from my hair, and called out to him. Julian's eyes were closed. The snow-white ground reflected the light, casting a pure, clean glow on his face, as if he were asleep. I mustered my courage and raised my voice. Julian, I'm here to pick you up. Julian slowly opened his eyes, a pair of dark, heavy eyes locking onto my face. He remained silent. He was most likely drunk, otherwise he would surely apologize for making me come out so late. I asked, where are your car keys? My driving skills are pretty decent. Julian stared at me for a long moment, then slowly pulled the car keys from his pocket and handed them to me. At the same time, he turned and, steadying himself against the wall, swayed unsteadily toward where his car was parked. Slow down, I'll help you, I said. You're small, I'm afraid I might crush you. His voice was hoarse, softened by alcohol, and his full lips were captivating. Fortunately, Julian's car wasn't parked far. He was very tall, and seeing him curled up in the charmingly decorated passenger seat created a strange sense of incongruity. In the passenger seat's glove compartment, I found my long-lost lipstick, along with my hair tie and some cosmetics. These were all things I had left in his car when I used to get rides from him. I hadn't ridden with him in ages, so why hadn't Julian thrown these things away yet? Once Julian was in the car, he didn't move. I had no choice but to buckle his seatbelt for him, which inevitably brought me into close proximity with him. His eyes were closed, and his slow breaths caressed my ear, tickling me. The fine hairs on my face seemed to brush against his nose. My heart pounded faster, and I held my breath, my eyes darting around. The scent of alcohol seemed to be intensified by his warm body heat, growing stronger in the confined space. Just as I was about to stand up, a hand reached out. His hand closed around my waist, instantly pulling me closer to him. I could even see my own reflection in his light eyes. Not properly buckled, he murmured, his voice a low reminder. Tensing up nervously, I held my breath and made sure his seatbelt was securely fastened. Click. He didn't release me, lost in thought. I mustered my courage. As a thank you, could you give me the key points for the exam? Julian stared at me for a long moment, then finally closed his eyes tiredly and said softly, Chloe, I do have basic professional ethics. Meaning no. I walked around the car to the driver's side and all the way home, I was sighing and complaining to Julian about how difficult his course was and how miserable the classmates were. He listened quietly, not saying a word. When we were almost at the residential complex, he probably couldn't take it anymore. He tossed his phone to me. Did I send this to you yesterday? The signal was bad, so it failed. Send it again for me. Such a good thing to happen. I smoothly parked the car in the parking spot and unlocked Julian's phone. I found our chat log and happily scrolled up. Suddenly, I saw an unsent message, not a file, and dated years ago. I like you. Will you be my boyfriend? Half an hour later, Julian replied, sorry, bad signal. Wait for me. But after waiting another half an hour, all I received was that apology. The second message failed to send due to network issues. What's wrong? Julian called out to me. I snapped back to reality, hastily exited the chat page. I didn't find it, I mumbled. Julian pinched the bridge of his nose, took his phone back, and started searching again. A moment later, my phone dinged, and I received a file. The class group chat went wild when they received the key points. I put my phone away and led Julian home. His steps were slow. His 6'3" frame followed behind me, one stair at a time. Drunk as he was, he swayed from side to side as he climbed the stairs. I had to constantly look back at him to prevent him from losing his balance and tumbling down the stairs. Because I was looking down at his footsteps, I could see Julian's long eyelashes, his slightly downturned eyes, and even the shadow of his lower lashes. He seemed less unapproachable coldness, which was a little strange. When we reached my front door, I stood still and called out, Julian. He looked up slightly, his gaze meeting mine, calm and gentle. I have to admit, seeing him in a white shirt, tying his tie, and wearing his gold-rimmed glasses, he really did look like a charming rogue. Driven by an impulse, I asked, Professor Julian, what's your keypad lock code? 0521. How tall are you? 6 feet 2 inches. How old are you? 29. Do you have a girlfriend? Julian paused. No, he said. I felt like I'd discovered something. Does he only tell the truth when he's drunk? Then I moved on to the main event. What's the exam format for this time? Julian pursed his lips, then leaned in close to my ear and softly asked, asking for such details, Chloe, what are you trying to do? He was drunk, and his voice was mixed with a subtle warmth. He didn't touch me, but the heat felt like a gentle, lingering kiss, swirling into my ear. Instantly, the tips of my ears turned blood red, and a tingle spread from my neck all the way to my waist. My legs went weak, and Julian had to steady me. Julian watched me with a smile. I panicked, my heart pounding. Then I quickly found an excuse. I have something to do. I'll go back first. Julian suddenly frowned, the veins bulging on the hand supporting himself on the railing. His face was etched with pain. What's wrong? I asked. Julian looked up, his eyes filled with a heavy, pitiful loneliness. Stomachache, he mumbled. He really did look unwell. My heart softened. Then come in. I have stomach medicine at my place. I pulled Julian through the door. By the time I came back with water and medicine, he had already loosened his tie, leaning back on the sofa, his head back, eyes closed. His Adam's apple bobbed, exuding an understated sexiness that was hard to describe. I was going crazy. I cleared my throat. Get up and take your medicine. He lazily opened his eyes. He must have stared at me for a full minute, unmoving. What did he mean? Did he want me to feed him? I hesitantly placed the medicine to his lips. Julian opened his mouth and took it, his cool lips brushing against my fingertip, sending a tingle through me. It was deadly. I squatted on the floor, unable to move. My legs felt like lead. We were so close, our breaths and heartbeats rising and falling. My substitute teaching ends tomorrow, Julian suddenly said. Julian suddenly spoke, a layer of unreadable emotion gathering in his eyes. He suddenly asked me, Chloe, are you looking for a boyfriend? My brain crashed. I mumbled for a long time. Low looking, or not looking? He didn't give me a chance to hesitate, asking, Can I be him? Can I be him? I slowly covered my mouth, thinking I was dreaming. No rush, he said. You can take your time to think about it. His ears were slightly flushed. He averted his gaze, trying to get up and leave. How could I take my time with something like this? I pounced on him, tackling him onto the sofa, pinning Julian's arms and legs. I gave him a quick, loud kiss. I've made up my mind. You can. Julian's eyes darkened. His palm slid from my neck into my hair, and he pulled me in for a kiss. The scent of alcohol mingled in my mouth. His movements were restrained, his hand stayed still on my lower back. I felt like a block of ice on a hot griddle, sizzling and steaming, quickly melting into a puddle. Julian released me, then pinched the tip of my ear. Chloe, don't let just anyone into your place next time. For some reason, Julian left in a hurry. He escorted me back to the master bedroom and then left. His scent lingered on me, making me toss and turn. An hour later, I stood innocently at his door, wearing a light green cat print camisole nightgown, and hugging a soft white pillow. I can't sleep, I said. Julian was half wrapped in a towel, water droplets trickling down his defined muscles, absorbed by the soft white bath towel. His Adam's apple bobbed. His gaze rested lightly on my face. Chloe, I can't guarantee you'll be able to sleep if you come to my place. I didn't care. I wasn't there to sleep with him. I was there to build our relationship. I bent down and slipped under his arm, heading straight for the guest room. I rolled around on the bed, then messaged my childhood friend Lily. How do I build our relationship with a new boyfriend? Lily, enjoying the drama, replied, sleep in his bed. I don't think so, I texted back. The second message was a voice message. The bad signal in the room probably prevented it from loading, so I stepped out barefoot and peeled open the door a crack, wanting to find a better signal in the living room. It was pitch black outside, and Julian seemed to be asleep. I tiptoed into the living room. The bright moonlight streamed through the large floor-to-ceiling window, illuminating the interior. I kept tapping the voice message, and at the corner, I suddenly crashed into someone. Ow! I cried out in pain. A large hand rested on top of my head, reminding me to watch where I was going. His cool voice was exceptionally clear in the quiet night, amplifying his presence. I looked up blankly and found Julian leaning against the bar counter, dressed in long-sleeved pajamas, completely covered up. Even so, his face still held a captivating allure. Just then, the voice message loaded. Lily's voice, full of gusto, echoed through the living room. There are tons of ways to deepen our relationship. Just cuddle him and have him tell you a bedtime story, and maybe feel up his abs while you're at it. My heart sank little by little. The moon was suddenly covered by clouds, and no light could penetrate. Julian's eyes were too dark to read. His voice was hoarse as he asked, in the softest possible whisper, "Who do you want to deepen our relationship with?" My phone suddenly became burning hot in my hand. I stammered for a long time. A hand suddenly grazed my lower back. A burning palm pulled me closer. Scalding heat washed over me, as if to suffocate me. Julian bent down and bit my earlobe. "Chloe, I'm asking you a question." Nervous and incoherent, I licked my dry lips and asked, "Could you tell me a bedtime story?" He suddenly picked me up. "All right," he said, "but not here." I admit Julian was capable. He told me a dry and boring story, and I passed out without even making one sassy remark. Waking up early, I stared at him resentfully. Julian, tying his tie, leaned down and gave me a kiss. "Hurry up. I'll drive you to university later. I'm going back to start my new role at the company. I also have important matters to attend to." My plan to make a move on him was temporarily put on hold. Today was the last event organized by the university's campus communications department this semester, and as the head of the campus communications department, I had to personally oversee it. As I passed the stairwell, right after I finished contacts Julian, I heard the voices of several girls. "The event is about to start. How are you going to continue without the costumes finalized? Didn't Ethan swear that you were more reliable than Chloe? Look at yourself. Are you reliable?" By the time I wanted to stop in my tracks, it was too late. A group of people appeared in my sight. Olivia's eyes were red-rimmed, and she was surrounded by a few classmates from the arts department, looking like she'd been bullied. The people outside were members of the arts department. I suddenly remembered that the arts department was also shooting a promotional video today. Ethan and I had been student ambassadors before, But later I got too busy and resigned to the professor, asking them to find a replacement. I never expected that replacement to be Olivia. Olivia saw me immediately, pursing her lips in silence. The arts department members turned around and anxiously grabbed me. "Chloe, there's no time. Come help us out." Before I could say a word, I was dragged into the dressing room. The arts department members were clearly scornful of Olivia's irresponsible actions. Olivia must be out of her mind. The costumes aren't even finalized. And she's still telling the photographer to make her look good? Does she really think she's taking glamour shots for herself? The head of the arts department plunged into the costume closet, searching frantically. "Fortunately, we have spare costumes. She can't wear them, but you can." I just explained the situation to the professor. "This time, the student ambassadors will still be you and Ethan." I looked up and saw Olivia standing at the doorway in the mirror, watching me coldly, as if she wanted to devour me. I vaguely recalled her saying before that student government is for students who aren't serious about academics, and she didn't need it. I was in no mood to consider his feelings. I told the arts department that I still had an event to attend, so let's finish this quickly. The head of the arts department grumbled to me. "Of course you and Ethan are both experienced hands." Soon thump. The door was pushed open forcefully, bounced off the wall, and swung back. The doorway was empty. Olivia had left. When I walked outdoors, Ethan was sitting on the lawn in a white shirt. The leaves filtering the sunlight like scattered gold fell upon Ethan's face, making him look full of youthful energy. Ever since I exposed him, Ethan's popularity plummeted at the university. However, some looks-obsessed people still gathered nearby, secretly watching. I smoothed my skirt and walked over. Ethan looked surprised. "Where's Olivia?" The head of the arts department rolled her eyes. "She bailed at the last minute." Ethan didn't ask further. Urged by the photographer, he came over. Ethan and I struck a few poses as instructed. The photographer, frowning, said, "Ethan, try to make your expression a bit more natural." He was still holding a grudge about the last incident, and his expression was extremely stiff. I took a deep breath and said in a businesslike tone, "I'm in a hurry. I don't have time to waste time with you. If you can't do it, they'll find someone else." Ethan's eyes trembled and he didn't dare to look at me. The photo shoot quickly ended. As I was leaving, Ethan followed behind, wanting to say something, but I received a call from Julian. "Are you done?" I complained dejectedly. "Not yet. I was roped in as backup midway through, and I haven't even finished my own work. I'll probably be busy until very late. You should just go home first." Julian chuckled. "It's fine, I'll be late too. I'll wait for you." Hearing my words, Ethan suddenly grabbed me and asked, "Are you two living together?" "Does it concern you?" I retorted. "We only broke up 2 months ago." I slowly pried his fingers off mine. "You're hooking up with Olivia, and I'm supposed to go into mourning for you?" Laughter broke out around us, and some people pulled out their phones to gossip with their friends. Ethan's face turned very ugly. "She and I were just fooling around," he insisted. "Then you keep playing," I said, waving my phone. "Just remember to pay me back, or I'll report you to the police." The campus communications department had so much going on that I quickly pushed this matter out of my mind. If it weren't for seeing Olivia flirting with him in front of Julian after school, I wouldn't have remembered. She was carrying the designer bag I'd given her, her hair curled into similar waves as mine, tied back with the same style hair bow. From behind, I could have sworn it was me. Olivia was eloquently performing her act. I walked over and, feigning politeness, greeted them. "Hello, Professor Julian." Olivia's voice faltered. She turned around, and her smile thinned when she saw it was me, but she still maintained a feigned enthusiasm. "Chloe, are you done with class? Professor Julian has taught us for so long, and a few classmates and I wanted to treat him to dinner. Professor Julian, please grace us with your presence." Whether intentionally or not, she didn't mention inviting me along. Julian's gaze fell on me. He casually declined. "You're all still students, no need to go to such expense." Olivia's gaze darted between me and Julian. She became overly friendly, hugging my arm. "Chloe, you should come too. Sarah will be there and she lent you so many notes, shouldn't you thank her?" I stared at her for a moment. then suddenly smiled. Sure. From that day on, Olivia resumed her overly friendly demeanor towards me. Chloe, I see you always ride in Professor Julian's car to and from university. Oh, it's just on the way, I replied casually. Where do you live now? Nearby. Ha ha ha, can I join for dinner? Every time I briefly ended a topic, she would find a new angle, trying to keep the conversation going to pry for personal information. Later, I asked Sarah, and it turned out this was just a class gathering. Olivia had volunteered to invite Julian, and some classmates even came up to tell me. How embarrassing. I just called the wrong person. I thought it was you, but it was Olivia. Your outfits were practically identical. She keeps mentioning Professor Julian lately, saying he's rich, implying I was promiscuous. I wasn't surprised at all. Olivia clearly thought she was no worse than me, and that anything I had, she could have too. During exam review, Olivia always found excuses to talk to Julian. The latest was at 2 a.m., when she said, Professor Julian, I'm really under a lot of stress. I couldn't stand it, so I replied, he's asleep. But to my surprise, she didn't stop there. Soon after, I received a message from Olivia, subtly probing. Are you asleep? Want to chat? Olivia's mind was clearly no longer on her studies. Ever since she fell out with me, she seemed to have become a different person, obsessively and incomprehensibly so. A little over a month later, the end of the semester exams were over. I received a full scholarship and my grades improved significantly. Olivia failed one course and needed to retake it. The day after classes ended, an anonymous post was published on the university forum. The title was, Would you dare to have a best friend like this? My and Olivia's names were replaced with initials. I was described as the villain who stole her best friend's boyfriend, while Olivia was the victim who always lost out. The comments section was filled with online onlookers condemning me. I knew without a doubt who posted it. That evening at the class dinner, I showed up. The moment I pushed open the door, an eerie silence fell over the room. They must have been convinced I was too ashamed to show up. Olivia was wearing a beautiful floral maxi dress with nude leggings, slinging the bag I had given her previously, and sitting intimately with Ethan. Seeing me enter, she froze, then suddenly stood up. What are you doing here? It's a class gathering, shouldn't I be here? Everyone exchanged glances, clearly sensing the eerie atmosphere. Sarah jumped in to intervene. Chloe, sit here with me. No thanks, Sarah, I said. I walked over to Olivia, pulled out my phone, showing a text. I've handed the post over to the police. Illegally fabricating facts. It should be processed in a few minutes. The music around us stopped, and everyone focused intently on listening to me speak. Oh damn, I forgot to take a screenshot. I exclaimed. Everyone help me out. Save the evidence before the post gets deleted. Everyone immediately pulled out their phones. Olivia was no exception. Once she opened her page, I held my phone above Olivia's head and took a picture. As expected, Olivia's page was different from everyone else's. It showed my anonymous post. Olivia, so you were the one who posted it. I immediately sent the photo to the class group chat. I never thought you had such an ability to play the victim and twist things around. Everyone's eyes changed as they looked at Olivia. Her face went pale. I had no mood to argue with her. I grabbed a bottle of red wine and poured it over her head, then gave the remaining half to Ethan. Both their faces were covered in red wine, and under the colorful lights, they looked embarrassed and ridiculous. I threw the empty bottle down, turned, and grabbed the microphone from the stage. It's on me tonight, everyone. Please listen to a story. I pulled out the details of the gifts I'd bought for both of them, and then played the recording of Olivia talking to me in the dorm room. Stealing your boyfriend felt pretty good. The recording continued with Olivia's voice. Chloe, you're not short on money. What's the difference between you giving me these things and dismissing a beggar? Being around you, I never get the best. I clearly study better than you, but all the resources go to you. Why? Is it just because your family has money, or because you have a face that men find appealing? Before it could finish playing, Olivia's hysterical voice came from the private room. Chloe, you know I have depression. Do you have to push me like this? Where's your medical certificate? I asked coolly. I watched her act coldly. Don't insult people with depression. They're sick, not immoral. It seems you're unhappy with your own face. If you want to be more appealing to men, I suggest you smash your face and grow a new one. Olivia suddenly ran out, crying. Ethan didn't move. He just stared at me coldly and said, "Always throwing money around. Everyone's right, you're different from us. Someone like you will never get true feelings." With that, he kicked open the door and went to the restroom. The room was silent. I found it pointless, turned and left. As I reached the stairwell, I saw Olivia tearfully complaining to Julian. "Chloe has been bullying me, Professor Julian. Please judge for yourself." I crossed my arms and stood on the steps, watching her performance with amusement. "Don't you know Professor Julian values looks over just character, right?" I reminded her. Olivia, teary-eyed, turned around looking confused. I raised my chin and beckoned him over. Julian understood and smiled, then rose and walked towards me. Standing on the steps, I was at eye level with Julian. I hooked my arm around his neck, pulled him closer, and gave him a loud kiss on the cheek. "Take me home," I said. "All right," he replied. As I passed Olivia, I raised an eyebrow. "I told you to try and win him over with your own abilities. You can try if you want." On the way back, it started snowing again. The car had the heat on, and I was feeling a little drowsy from the alcohol I'd had. As soon as he parked, I leaned over the center console, climbed over, and sat on Julian's lap. He gently scratched my ear. His voice held a hint of laughter. "What do you want to do?" "Kiss me," I said. I was feeling a bit down, both for having my sincerity betrayed for so many years and for Ethan's remark. "Someone like you will never get true feelings." "Am I bad-tempered?" "No," he said. "You just have bad luck. They accused you of being greedy, but that's only because they only have cheap emotions to offer." His gaze was calm and gentle, and it strangely soothed my restless heart. I cupped his face and pressed my lips to his. Tonight, we could finally deepen our relationship properly. I briefly pulled away from his lips and said, "No more stories tonight." He smiled. "Not a single word, I promise." Before I could finish my sentence, he eagerly cupped the back of my head. The small snowflakes falling from the sky clung to the car window, immediately melted, forming streaks of water.